In 5 weeks' time, you will have made your choice, the votes will have been counted and the results will be in. What we can reveal in a TV exclusive is the results of the first major poll of its kind since the general election was called. This poll, done by Electoral Calculus in conjunction with us here at GB News and the Daily Mail, uses the MRP method. Now, it's been used to successfully predict the last 2 British general elections and gives the estimated results in each constituency. The sample size is 10,000 people, and it was conducted from May the 20th to May the 27th. The results are in, and they are absolutely astonishing. The number of seats predicted to be won by each party at the general election are as follows. Labour, 493. The Conservatives, 72. The Liberal Democrats, 39. The SNP, 22. Plaid Cymru, 4. And the Greens, 2. And to break that down in percentages for you, that would put the Conservatives, just on this poll, on 19% of the vote, Labour on 46%, the Lib Dems on 10%, Reform on 12%, but importantly as well with no seats there, I'll come on to that later. The Greens, 8%, the SNP with 3% and Plaid on 0.5%. Bit of context for you now. This would be the worst result for the Conservatives since at least 1900. This forecast would mean a larger Labour majority than Tony Blair's landslide in 1997, and it will be the largest win by any party in modern parliamentary history except for 1931. But here is another astonishing revelation. Here are the 18 Conservative cabinet members who would lose their seats. Oliver Dowden, the Deputy PM, James Cleverly, Grant Shapps, Penny Mordaunt. We've also got Kemi Badenoch, Claire Coutinho, Mel Stride. There's Gillian Keegan, Mark Harper, David Davies and Victoria Prentice. Esther McVeigh, Andrew Mitchell and Johnny Mercer, they would all go to Labour, by the way. Alex Chalk and Michael Tomlinson would apparently both lose to the Liberal Democrats. Alistair Jack would lose to the SNP and Simon Hart to Plaid Cymru. Another big name would be Sir Jacob Rees-Mogg. Apparently he would go as well. Now, a lot can change in politics. There are weeks to go in this election campaign, and that poll was concluded on May the 27th. But those results are stark. I'm joined now by the man behind the poll. It's the founder and CEO of Electoral Calculus, Martin Baxter. Martin, thank you very, very much for joining us here on Patrick Christie's Tonight. Those results are absolutely astonishing. Can you shed some more light on them for us, please?
Good evening, Patrick. Yes, indeed. These are disappointing results for the Conservatives and very pleasing results for Labour. And you made a very important comparison with Tony Blair's landslide victory in 1997, where he got a majority of 179 seats. But he enjoyed a lead in the polls of about 13%. And Labour have been seeing a poll lead of consistently above 20% for the last few months and in the campaign so far. And just in simple terms, 20% is bigger than 13%. So Keir Starmer's Labour Party is doing better than Tony Blair did in 1997, and it's very reasonable that that's going to translate into a bigger majority. And that's what our MRP poll is showing by translating the votes nationally and locally into actual seat predictions. We see that the Conservatives could well win fewer than 100 seats, which would be almost unprecedented, I think, in modern times.
No, indeed. The Liberal Democrats could do quite well, and also the results that I read out there did not factor in tactical voting. Could you just expand on that a little bit for us as well, please?
That's right, yes. Our poll, which I should say was also conducted jointly with Find Out Now, another pollster, we asked a lot of questions of our big 10,000 sample about tactical voting. And that makes a difference, though it's maybe not as big as people think, partly because some people have already decided to vote tactically, and also because there's a lot of confusion between voters. We've had the change to the seat boundaries are coming into force at this election. And also there's such a difference between the previous election result and the likely election result now, is that voters are a bit confused whom to vote for tactically. But we've listened to what they said and tried to work out what they were going to do. And one small crumb of comfort for the Conservatives is that tactical voting looks likely to cost Labour more seats than the Conservatives. The Conservatives might lose about 6 seats from tactical voting, and Labour could lose 15 or 20. So the main gainers from tactical voting will be Liberal Democrats, where they can convince people that they are the challenger to the Conservatives. One less good thing for the Conservatives we saw is that on the right of centre, there's little appetite to vote tactically between Conservative supporters and Reform supporters, Reform UK supporters. They don't seem to trust each other as much as, say, Liberal and Liberal Democrat supporters trust the other party.
Yes, no, indeed. And could you just quickly for us try to break it down through regions? So, what's the Red Wall looking like? What's the South East looking like? What's Scotland looking like, please?
So, yeah, absolutely. In the North and the Midlands, Labour looks set to win a lot of seats, and Conservatives will be quite thin on the ground there. But Labour's also making inroads into the South and the Southeast of England, traditionally areas where they've not done terribly well at all, but they are looking to make big gains in some, even some quite unlikely seats. Scotland is a different a story with different dynamics. There, the story is very much that the SNP are down from the immensely strong peaks that they had in previous general elections and look set to lose seats, mostly to Labour. So Labour winning in Scotland as well. So it's really, electorally speaking, everything is going right for Keir Starmer because he's positioned Labour quite well to pick up a lot of disillusioned voters outside Labour's traditional heartlands.
Look, Martin, thank you very, very much. That's Martin Baxter there, who is the founder and CEO of Electoral Calculus. It was also conducted, as he was right to point out there, that poll alongside Find Out. Now, I am going to introduce into the fray our political editor here at GB News, Christopher Hope. Look, we've had these stats there, and they are absolutely astonishing. Labour 493 seats, the Tories down to 72. It will be the worst result for the Conservatives since at least 1900. Astonishing.
Extraordinary, and it lays bare the risk taken by the Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak. He didn't have to call the election. He had until January the 25th next year. He went earlier than everyone thought. Most of the MPs didn't think this was going to happen. No one thought it would happen. This polling, this MRP polling, detailed polling, it stands a multi-level regression and post-stratification, in case you're wondering, Patrick. Very detailed polling. Started on Monday before the election was called, the 20th, ran for a week. So it covers the first few days of the election. It was a wobbly start. He got soaking wet in the rain, didn't he, Mr Sunak? And he went... you photograph on an exit sign, and so it goes on. The Tories would say, well, we can pull this back, 5 more weeks to go, but it shows the scale of the challenge and does draw into question why call an election when you're so far behind. Again, he's gambled his entire reputation on this election, and it shows the challenge he's facing, the scale of this poll.
But also the roles under this poll of 18 cabinet members.
Yep.
Absolutely astonishing. You've got the likes of Oliver Dowden, you've got James Cleverly, you've got Grant Shapps, Penny Mordaunt, Esther McVeigh. I mean, there's a load of these. Gillian Keegan, just to rattle off a few of the people.
What that means, Patrick, is assuming that Mr Sunak, were he to lose the election, stands down as leader, which he probably should do or would do, you're left with Jeremy Hunt, Vicky Atkins, Tom Tugendhat, Steve Bartley and Michelle Donnellan as the only cabinet ministers left who could fight for leadership. It shows a scale. It will completely redraw who we think might be leader of this party after a rout in the election. And look at those numbers on reform. 0 MPs for 12% of the vote. That's third biggest party in the election. Lib Dems, unbelievably, 10% of the polls, and yet 59 or 39 MPs, depending on tactical voting. That will fuel the anger that Nigel Farage has felt since 2015 when you got millions of votes and was left with 1 MP, or maybe 2 MPs, and the SNP, in contrast, got dozens of MPs with fewer votes. He won't forget that, and here's a case in point for some degree of political reform for minor parties.
I think it's really worth just repeating that point, that this poll would have reform on 12% of the vote with no seats.
Correct.
No seats.
And it's just a poll. Were Rishi Sunak in your studio now in my place, he'd be saying to you, the only poll that matters is the 4th of July. But this matters because it's a very detailed 10,000-strong poll and an attempt to forecast the result of the election, the first one of the campaign. A lot of work to do for the Tory party, and all is not lost, but Labour is sitting pretty.
Absolutely. Look, Christopher, thank you very, very much, as ever, not just for this, but for all the work you've been doing for us so far here at GB News in this election campaign. You've got a long way to go. So does the election. All right, well, look, I will whiz us on over now